What's going on YouTube? This is John from the Unhinged Zombie Hunter clan, bringing to you another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. Now, I hope my Resonation of Darkness helped some of you beginners out there. This is another advanced deck I'm using called Blue Eyes Destruction. So without further ado, let us go straight into the deck and we will crack straight in. Right, so starting off with the boss monsters. For the first of the dragons, I am running 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons and 1 Blue Eyes Alternative. Now, yeah, Blue Eyes is vanilla. You all know what Blue Eyes is like. It's the most legendary card from Kaiba. Alternative was from Dark Side of Dimensions. So, yeah, best card, special ability, reveal a Blue Eyes in your hand, special summon this card, effect when it hits the field, pop one of your monsters of your opponent's monsters, but it cannot attack on the turn it uses this ability. Next on the dragon lineup, I am running 3 copies of the... Hang on, if I do something, hang on. I will also be using 3 copies of Dragon Spirit of White. Hang on, if I do this in an organised manner. There you go. So yeah, 3 Dragon Spirits of White, 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons, and 1 Alternative. Dragon Spirit of White is a good card in this deck because it's treated as Blue Eyes on your field and in your graveyard. And its effect is when this card is summoned to the field, you can banish 1 spell or trap card your opponent has face down, and they can't use it again. Also, if your opponent controls monsters on the field, tribute this card off, you get a Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand or deck to the field. Sorry, not from your deck, from your hand to your field. Then after the Blue Eyes monsters, I am running 1 Divine Dragon Lord Felgrand. So yeah, and for the last of the dragons, I am running 1 Archbrave Dragon. So yeah, Archbrave's ability, when it comes to your opponent's standby phase, if you have any other dragon type monsters like Dragon Spirit, Blue Eyes, or Divine Dragon Lord Felgrand in your graveyard, this card will get one of these guys out of your graveyard except himself, because Archbrave cannot revive himself. That is a absolute thing about this card. It cannot physically, revive itself. So yeah, just a word of caution to any of you who play Blue Eyes a lot. Then after that, I am running 1, 2, 3 copies of Sage with Eyes of Blue. Now, the way Sage works, which I'll get into when I get to her, is you can summon him to the field, but he can add 1 light tuna monster from your deck with white eyes in its name. So yeah, he's a quick way to go into another way. Plus, if you have another monster on the field, like Maiden with Eyes of Blue, send him and Maiden to the graveyard. You can summon 2 Blue Eyes White Dragons from your deck in just 1 turn. Then after the Sage, I am running... I did say this was the last of the dragons, but this is the very last of the dragons. I do run, and this is previous because it's one of the newest cards, I do run 3 copies of Whitestone of Ancients. Now, with Whitestone of Ancients... Oh, good. Hang on a minute, folks. There we go. Whitestone of Ancients' ability is... if this card is sent to your graveyard... you can during your end phase, this card will activate and let you summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon or Dragon Spirit of White from your deck to your field, ignoring the summoning conditions. Also, its secondary effect is you can banish this card from your graveyard, and you can return 1 Blue Eyes White Dragon Blue Eyes monster from your graveyard to your hand. So in a way, it's a bit of a dumper, but you can get back a Blue Eyes monster from it. So it could get you back Blue Eyes Alternative, Blue Eyes White Dragon, or the Dragon Spirit of White, wherever it is. There you go. Or it can get you back that. In a way, this card is a staple in this deck. You cannot run this deck without it. Or the Sages. It really does not work without them. For the last of the Maidens, Sages, Monster-like, near Monster-like, I am running 3 copies of Maiden with Eyes of Blue. Now, the way she works, as I said, with Sage with Eyes, if she's on the field first, chain... Hang on a minute. right? Use his effect, send her to the grave, chain her effect with him. You get 2 Blue Eyes White Dragons straight from your hand, deck, or your graveyard with Maiden, because she can summon it from anything. So in a way, she can not only get you out of Blue Eyes, she can get you out of Dragon Spirit of White. And for the last of the monsters, I am running 1 Effect Veiler. The Effect Veiler is just there to is a hand trap that I included into this deck because it shuts down your opponent's monster's effect for just 1 turn, but it helps. That is it for the monster lineup. Now moving on to the spell lineup. I run not 1, not 2, but 3 copies of Melody of the Awakening Dragon. Now the way this card helps is if you have a dead hand, you use this card, you discard a card from your hand, and you add 2 dragon type monsters with 3,000 attack points or 2,000 defense points. So if you've got if you've got a White Stone of Ancients in your hand, use this, dump that. You get 2 blue eyes, like Blue Eyes White Dragon and Blue Eyes Alternative to your hand, and at the end phase you'll get a 3 Blue Eyes on the field instantly. So like that, you'll get 2 summons in just 1 turn. Then after that, for the rest of the draw engine, I do run, because this was recommended to me by my friend Joe at Zephyr War Games. I recommend you check out some of his Blue Eyes builds. They are as mental as hell. I recommend running from him 3 copies of Trading, because this helps with ditching your level 8s like Felgrand or Dragon Spirit of White or a Blue Eyes if you've got it as a dead hand. So it's a quick way to draw 2 cards from your deck. Then after that I run... Now this is where the biggest pile up comes in. I run 3 copies of the Fang of Critias in this deck, and for the reason I run 3 is I run 2 traps that has 2 fusion type monsters to go into it. This card, I will fuse it with my Ring of Destruction or my Crush Card Virus to fusion summon either Destruction Dragon or Doom Virus Dragon, and that will fuck my opponent right over. Destruction Dragon's ability I'll get to when I get to it, but Doom Virus, if your opponent has monsters with more than 1,500 attack points or higher, they're instantly gone for 3 turns. Your opponent cannot do shit. He is fucked. Pardon my language. That warning still stands. No children under the age of 8 or 18. Do not copy any of these words. I do not wish to be demonetized. Then after that, for the rest of the draw engine, I do run 2 copies of Dragon Shrine. The way Dragon and 1 copy of Monster Reborn. You know what Monster Reborn does by now, folks. It brings a monster back from either yours or your opponent's graveyard. End of story. Dragon Shrine allows you to send 1 normal dragon type monster, so like send Dragon Spirit of White. Then you dump White Stone of Ancients. Instantly, you get a free summon again. So yeah, Dragon Shrine, I dropped it down to 2 because I always found that I was bricking with just 3 copies in my hand. 2 makes this deck a lot smoother to run with. Next on the spell lineups, I run, if I can remember, not 1 but 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon and 1 Summoner's Art. Now, you all know what Mystical Space Typhoon does. It's a back row hater. It hates the back row. Destroy your own opponent's monsters. Summoner's Art, on the other hand, allows me to add 1 normal level 5 or higher monster from my deck to my hand. So Blue Eyes would be added straight to my hand. And then the next part of the lineups, I do run 2 Terraformings and 1 Polymerization. The only reason I run 1 Polymerization in this deck is because I have another Blue Eyes fusion, the ultimate Blue Eyes Ultimate White Dragon. So, but I hardly ever go into that card. And Terraforming, I actually dropped that down to 2 because this deck does run 3 different field spells. But if you drop it Terraforming down to 2, because I've always found if you have 3 Terraformings, you still have a dead hand. So I've dropped it down to 2. Oh, sorry, folks. So yeah, 2 Terraformings and 1 Polymerization. And for the next part of the spell lineup, for the field spells, I do play 1 Dragon's Ravine, 1 Fusion Recycling Plant, sorry, my hand's getting in the way, and 1 copy of Mausoleum of White. Now, You all know what Fusion Recycling Plant does, along with Dragon's Ravine. I only use Dragon's Ravine's second effect to send a Dragon-type monster from my deck to the graveyard. So it's a quick way to dump White Stone of Ancients, instant blue eyes. Fusion Recycling Plant helps you get back a polymerization from your graveyard during your next turn. On your end phase, you get one of your fusion materials back from the graveyard. So it's a quick way to get blue eyes out of your graveyard. And Mausoleum of Way, a way this card helps is you can normal summon one light attribute monster. So if I could special summon a Maiden with Eyes of Blue, I still have one additional normal summon, which I don't waste. So in a way, it helps the deck in a manner. And then for the last of the spell lineup, I do run the one Foolish Burial. The way this helps, another way to get rid of White Stone of Ancients quickly. Alright, that is it for the spell lineup. Now on to the trap lineup. I do run... Oh, hang on a minute. I do apologise, folks. I do run one Loop of Destruction. Helps it out because it's treated as Ring of Destruction. Oh god, when it's face up on the field. Then I do run, as I said, one Ring of Destruction. This is one of the cards that Critty is confused with because of the new fusion we got. And here is the Crush Card Virus. Another card I said that Critty is confused with. And then after that, I do run, sorry, I have got very, very fiddly hands. 2 copies of Call of the Haunted. And now this was a recommended idea I had in my head with this deck. Because, oh my god, does it really fuck your opponent, mess your opponent right up. Literally, your opponent can't get around this card. I do run the one copy of Ordeal of the Traveller. Its effect is continuous and your opponent has to bloody guess the card, one of the cards in your hand. If he guesses it right, if it's a monster, spell or trap, his attack goes through. If he doesn't get it right, his card is returned to his hand or his extra deck. No questions about it. This card will seriously screw your opponent right over. There is no way you can get over this card. It is unbeatable. Right, for the extra deck, which is the last, I do run 2 of the Critias fusions. I excuse my hand. I really have got to stop doing that. I really got to get a stand for this. I run 1 Doom Virus Dragon and the 1 Destruction Dragon. Like I said with Doom Virus, he requires Crush Card Virus and the Fang of Critias. Now, the way Doom Virus helps is he destroys monsters on your opponent's side of the field with 1500 or more attack. Destruction Dragon, on the other hand, if it's in defense mode, once per turn, you can target one of your opponent's monsters, destroy that card, and it deals your opponent damage equal to its original attack points. And yes, you heard that right. This card will deal your opponent damage like Ring of Destruction does if it destroys a whole monster. So in a way, a new version of Ring of Destruction, but it just damages your opponent. End of story. And for the last of the fusion lineup, as I said, I run 1 Blue Eyes Twin Burst and 1 Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Both staples. This card can't be destroyed in battle, and this card is just a beef stick. It cannot be beaten easily. And then for the next part of the deck, which is the Synchro lineup, I run, excuse me, while I stop the fingers, not 1, but 3 copies of Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. Now this card, it helps because if you remove White Stone of Ancients from your graveyard, you can add that back to your extra deck and replay some of your plays all over again. There is no question. Once this card is tapped out, you can special summon from your extra deck a Zero Eyes Silver Dragon, which reminds me, I am only running 2 copies of a Zero Eyes because I found with 3 Zero Eyes, I brick with that pan. I will brick with that. That's why I've had to make so much room in this extra deck for the Fusion lineup, a Synchro lineup, and an Xyz lineup. Because 2 Zero Eyes can help this deck more than 3 can. So yeah. Then for the extra deck, I do run 1 Galaxy Eyes Full Armored Photon Dragon, 1 Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon, 1 number 38 Titanic Galaxy, excuse me, and 1 number 107, and for the last one, wherever it is, I do run 1 number 95 Galaxy Eyes Dark Matter Dragon. Hope Harvest Titanic Galaxy will disrupt your opponent from ever using spell cards if you don't bother with using Eradicator from a different deck. This card just basically mills your opponent's deck. This card can negate card activations for 1 turn. And Full Armor just turns any monster into a Galaxy Eyes. There's no question. Same with Cypher Dragon. Right, also, that is it for the deck profile. Please remember, if you are still new to this channel, please remember to subscribe and hit that subscribe button. Hit that big thumbs up button. It helps out a ton with this channel. Do not forget to check out the crew at Zephyr War Games. I will leave a link in the description down below for their Facebook and their YouTube channel. And I think that's all there is to say about this deck profile. So remember, good day, have good fun, and enter the friends. Goodbye.